his surgeries. He started screaming.
Like a soldier.
His growing panic state forced me to offer him a mouthful of rum.
Rum
And that
first? Yes. Now, my friend, how old are you?
I mean, it's 21.
Of course. But you know what? 14 would be good because in the army you can enter as young as 13, 14, so that's good for us. Whoa, 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 whoa! I want you to have a sip, nothing else. Do you think that I want to get the patient drunk?
No.
The answer is no. Why?
Oh, because the alcohol
The alcohol's what?
in the blood.
Yeah, what happens?
Then she'll fall off the
Something
table.
there. Because alcohol thins the blood,
thins,
right? So it flows way faster in your veins. So that's not a good thing when you want to cut off a limb, all right? Because that means that it could look like a scene of Kill Bill. That's not the point. So just a little bit to calm you down. No, you had your... The rest is...
I also discreetly took a sip or two to get back on my feet since the last surgery did not go as planned. When he was properly installed on my surgical table, I assessed the state of the wound. Swelling was quite serious around the calf, and the leg was slightly out of line, which could mean a compound fracture of the tibia and the fibula.
Okay, so in your leg you have two bones like this, and in your case what happened, not only one fracture, but a compound fracture, which means both the bones were like this, and plus you had to walk up to my tent, which means that the upper bones went down through the flesh and are now sticking out right here. Now,
I had to be absolutely sure that the bullet was impossible to extract. I inserted my finger directly in the patient's open wound. He started screaming and insulting me. Ah!
jerk! I've heard worse. Now, you know, if I can touch the bullet, what I will do, I will use this to make sure it's actually the bullet. That's with the sound, you go with the sound. If it's a muscle, of course, the sound is going to be something like this. But if I touch the bullet, oh, there's the bullet. So, I'm going to use the bullet extractor. I'm going to try to punch the bullet. And screw, there's a screw here to use it to go inside the bullet. And then, if things work out well, I'm going to take out the bullet with this, of course. But you have to know that in most of the cases what happened is that it just pushed the bullet further down into the wound. And unfortunately in your case, well, not only did that, but the bullet exploded against the bones, so...
An amputation below the knee was absolutely necessary to prevent gangrene from developing in the wound. I broke the news to this poor man.
I'm going to have to cut off your leg.
He started to cry. And between his sobbing, he told me to do what I had to do. That's your line. Do what you have to do. I had to minimize the surgery time to save the patient from suffering too much. I asked my assistants to bring me several strips of cloth. I wrapped them around the higher part of the lower leg several times, and then, I installed the tourniquet.
Tourniquet, we put it around the leg like this, and we tighten it with the screw here. Thank you. So, what do you think we use that for? Yes?
Stop circulation.
Very good. To prevent to have too much blood flow in the lower leg. And because, of course, when you're going to cut it, you want the blood in the upper part of the leg.
Once the blood flow was stopped, I used a scalpel to cut through the first layers of skin in a U shape so that I could obtain two properly sized flaps of skin to cover the bones later.
What did you call it, jury?
Yes.
So, scalpel to cut through the first layers of skin, and I will cut on each side in a U shape, right, like this.
Ow.
You can scream.
Ah!
Okay. Because I want to obtain two flaps of skin in a U shape, because of course when I'm going to cut it, the bone, I need some flesh to cover it, okay? If I cut the flesh like this, then there will be a bone sticking out like this, no flesh to cover it. So with my two flaps, and I'm going to move the skin up and down to make sure, it's loose a little bit. And then after that, when it's finished, I will use the two flaps to go flop, flop over the bone to cover it.
patient's constant screams and abrupt movements gave me no choice but to hold him down.
And scream.
Ah! Soldier screams.
Okay, calm down.
Once the skin was removed, I used a surgical knife to cut through the muscles, and especially the tendons, which are harder to cut through.
This is a surgical knife. It's a very cool tool because it's round, as you see, and it's the inside part that is sharpened. So I can go around a leg or an arm very easily. So I would use it to go through the muscles. And also the tendons, you know, the tendons are that hard thing that you feel in your mouth when you're eating steak and whoops, suddenly there's funny, you know, texture. That's a tendon. And tendon, to cut them, well, it's a little hard, so you use a surgical knife and you put the tip, the pointy tip, between the tendon and the bone, and then you're just going to turn it around and you'll go cut the tendon. Alright? Surgical.
The patient fainted.
Forward, forward, forward.
Probably because the pain was unbearable. Then it was a good time to use the tenaculum to seize the veins and arteries in order to sew them.
Now, veins and arteries are very slippery, okay? Don't try to touch them. Don't try this at home. But for the surgeon, he had to get hold on them, and he would use the tenaculum to do that. So with the hook or the pointed tip, you go get the veins, you pull them down, all right? And then you can cut them properly, and you can also cauterize them. Okay, you burn the tip of the veins to make sure the blood will stop flowing. And then, when you finish, you just let them go, and they go back into place like that.
Once the bones were cleaned of any remaining muscles, I started to saw them with the surgical saw.
Saw. So, it's not a saw that we would use to cut wood. It was a special saw that was designed for the surgeries. I don't know if I had, you know, let's say you have a problem with a finger, I could use my cutie here, little surgical saw, right? Baby saw, let's call it that way. But for the leg, we're going to go with the big one. Thank God you fainted there.
Yeah, good.
So, I started to sew the leg.
The patient unluckily woke up during this procedure.
Scream, I guess.
And fainted again.
I cut.
The cut of the bones being clean, I only had to sew the flaps of flesh over the bones with some wax thread that the shoemaker gave me.
And sometimes they would even put a little golden button to make it look cute, right? And you have to know that in the surgeon's tent, there would be next to the table a pile of limbs, all right? Because of course we had a few surgery during a battle, and we would just put the limbs over there in the pile. Can you imagine? And we would not wash the instruments between each surgery. We just put them into water a little bit, put them back there. We didn't know about bacteria infection, so it was not a problem. Now, do you think that you would survive to such a surgery?
Probably not for long.
Well, most of the soldiers did. 50 to 60% of the soldiers did. But in the records, we know that they survived the actual operation. But once they were back home, because they could no longer be in the army, if they died, well, we were no longer keeping count. So we don't know. But we guess that a lot of them died from infection, gangrene, or different kind of diseases. Now, let's give her a big round of applause. That was excellent.